Dr. Rina Gupta is a clinical psychologist with 25 plus years of experience working with children, adolescents, adults, and families. And she joins me on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's been going through your mind? Let's start with yesterday when we found out that the little girl was found.
A whole range of emotions, I'm sure, as everybody else has experienced. But my major concern is for this little girl's emotional development and her developing brain. We can only imagine what she's been through. And the news of today really adds a whole layer of abandonment, which we know from a psychological perspective is something that can really sit with us for the rest of our lives.
No kidding. Just before we get into that, because I want to deal with that, but how surprised are you that she survived? Let's assume for now that she was alone. Of course, we don't know the details. I mean, that's 4 days.
Right. I understand that she was left with a lunchbox, and, I think with some nutrition and access to fluids, it's possible. The physical survival, I can imagine was absolutely terrifying if she was on her own through the night. There must have been bugs and scary things and dark shadows, and she was probably hiding and waiting. And so for me, the psychological terror that she probably experienced is something that's really sitting very heavily with me at the moment.
Exactly. So psychological terror, layer of fear of abandonment. I mean, these are major, major issues. What kind of lasting effect could this type of trauma have on a child? I mean, she's 3.
Lifelong. It definitely can be lifelong. And I think, the people who, her family who will be caring for her in the years to come will really have to understand that there's going to be a lot of pieces that need to be worked out as she develops, as she starts to experience different, types of relationships with different people. Her ability to trust in the world fundamentally has been shaken. As children, we are instinctively, intuitively primed to believe that our parents always have our best interests at heart and they're there to protect us. Mm-hmm. So when she becomes old enough to understand that there was a abandonment and an intentional leaving of her, that's going to be very hard to assimilate, and it's going to affect her ability to trust the world around her, and hopefully with the right kinds of support and care, she can work through it.
Mm-hmm. And what, I can't imagine how one would deal with that. What is the right kind of support? How does one answer those kinds of questions?
I think therapy is complicated, right? There's so many different approaches. And I think the most important component here is a consistent, supportive, and very competent therapeutic rapport and relationship that can grow over time. She's going to need a lot of support. At this age, it's really about play. It's about exploring through play, exploring through relationships, modeling of healthy relationships, that will allow her to shift her perception of the world around her. Her mom didn't just abandon her from what we understand, but she's going to be gone out of her life, I'm assuming, for quite a while. Yeah. And so there is that secondary aspect that she, as a young child, will never understand. Only as she becomes older, these things will start to, make sense. And so she's going to need help. I think one of the things that we see when children experience really hard things when they're little is people make the wrong assumption that, they're little, they're young, they won't remember it, and just kind of pretend and go on as if nothing happened. That is the worst thing that anybody could do in a situation like this. So as long as there's an awareness and understanding that the brain experiences trauma, it does change the brain, it changes who we are, and we need loving support moving forward, professional support, family loving support, community support to really help this kid learn to believe in the world around her and in people and in herself. In herself, because as a child, when we are abandoned, we tend to internalize it. We're egocentric in our thinking, and we tend to think, I'm not worth it. I wasn't worth sticking around. There must be something wrong with me. And so there's a lot of layers that need to be addressed when the time is right. So it's not so much what kind of help, but it's the consistency over time, and not this like feeling of, oh, she had 20 sessions, so we did what we needed to do.
Yeah.
It's really a lifelong journey now to make sense of all of this, and to, be able to have a healthy life is going to be a challenge.
I mean, we don't know what the resources of the family are either, but I mean, is the system equipped to deal with something like this?
So that's a really good question. I think the system is equipped on some levels, and I think at a certain point in time, the family will need to, probably seek private care. I think initially there should be services available in the public system. Over time, like I said, this is going to be many years in the making, or in the fixing, a better way of putting it. I don't imagine that there would be public resources for the long journey,
No.
but I would like to believe that in the current moment and for what she needs in the immediate, there should be services available.
You know what I keep thinking, and again, we don't know all the details, but apparently, her mother told her to stay right there. And, having experience with little girls, it's like she was like a good girl. She stayed where she was told.
Yeah.
And it feels like she's being, punished for it. I don't know if I'm making it more complicated than it already is, but I just can't imagine the layers that are going on there.
Yeah, and we don't know what this child interpreted, right? So she might think, oh, mommy told me to stay right here. Mommy's not back. Something must have happened to mom,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so she might have all the worry in the world for her mom, who wasn't able to come back. We don't know what she's able to kind of make sense of in the moment. And really, the whole process now is about meeting her where she's at and going from there, and gentle and more through creativity and play and, healthy space. Play therapy is wonderful for children who are young like this, who've been through a lot. Their verbal capacities are really limited, and especially the ability to put words to thoughts and feelings. And so through play, through creativity, through safe space,
Mm-hmm.
They can start to heal.
And again, I know we don't know what happened, and I don't know if you can even answer this question, but should the mother be involved?
Oh, I'm in no position to answer that question.
Yeah.
We don't know the story. I have to believe there are some, and I have nothing to go on, right? But I just have to believe there's some very significant mental health and despair in the mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she herself probably needs a lot of attention and care.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to do that to your child, you have to feel very desperate or be very psychologically sick.
Yeah.
So, if a mom's not in a proper mental state, she probably shouldn't be involved. It's impossible to surmise without having any facts.
Yeah, I understand it, but it's interesting to think of that whole dynamic going forward between the mother and the daughter. It's such an important dynamic in one's life.
That's right. That's right.
Dr. Gupta, thank you so much.
It is my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Dr. Rina Gupta is a clinical psychologist with 25 plus years of experience working with children, adolescents, adults, and families.